The Gran Turismo franchise officially dates back 25 years, and the launch of Gran Turismo 7 coincides with this. The seventh official release in the series is the culmination of Kazunori Yamauchi's dream, all wrapped into one place. His passion for not only the spectacle of racing, but also car culture and the art form that is engineering is fully on display. Gran Turismo 7 manages to encompass everything that was created with Gran Turismo Sport and ties in with a modern take on the original Gran Turismo games. With the power and tech of the PlayStation 5, Gran Turismo 7 is now the pinnacle of the series with the deepest physics realism to date. The center of the GT World map is the cafe. CAS has implemented this cafe to help new players not only learn, but also provide guidance on not only the history of cars, but also on how the Gran Turismo series works. The idea of GT7 is to collect cars, which may be the game's only downfall. You will not be able to sell cars like you have in the past, so any duplicates will amount to only discarding the car. Luca is the one running this coffee shop, and it almost seems like he is the head of a secret society of car enthusiasts, as there are also other knowledgeable people that are a part of this small cafe. Personally, I would love to know where I could find a coffee shop buried in the middle of the woods of some exotic location. Luca provides goals to unlock cars and reward them to your inventory. Progressing in these events will further unlock tracks and events, and the more you race at these tracks, it will open up more traditional Gran Turismo events. Furthermore, completing the objectives allows Luca to tell the story of the grouping of cars that were just unlocked through some beautiful in-game renderings. All the events in GT7 are housed under each track, whether it be arcade racing, time trials, drift trials, the return of circuit experience, and the new meeting place. The meeting place is an online racing spot for players to join in, do free runs, and talk about their cars and setups. The hope is to garner good conversation about cars and can be a learning tool for many players out there on how to race or upgrade cars in general. Another new gameplay option are the mission challenges, which are separate from Luca's. These can even include drag racing, which hasn't been on a Gran Turismo game since GT4. These allow other ways to play fun mini-games and experience a separate side of Gran Turismo. License tests return, and these will have you taking more and more powerful cars on really weak tires to pass the tests and race in better races. Some of these tests are also rally events, and while they're not ridiculous to pass, getting gold is another story. While I understand the design logic with the game and the cafe, players looking to just jump in and buy cars and race in a ton of different events may not be a fan. Multiplayer options, including split screen, aren't unlocked until around level 8 or so. This will easily be forgotten once it's achieved, but this does seem like a forced guiding tool. Tuning returns with a different bit of a focus this time around. Performance points, which have been seen in the past, are what dictates specific races that you can or can't participate in. Rather than using a horsepower rating and the fact that there are over 60 separate performance parts for each car, players can have different builds to achieve the performance points. These 60 parts do include official Brembo brake packages, as Brembo has been licensed for the game, along with Michelin and BBS. What isn't included as part of those 60 parts are the separate 650 aerodynamic parts, 130 different wheels, and 1,200 colors of paint that can be used for custom liveries. Adding variations to how you upgrade helps to bring a new dynamic to your project other than what has the most horsepower. You'll be winning races in your 1965 Mini Cooper. What makes Gran Turismo 7 stand out the most is the latest driving model that has been implemented to the series. Tires and brakes play the biggest aspect, as stock tires and stock brakes will have you fighting the car with no assist on. Each car leans with how its weight is transferred, and this includes under hard braking. The car will transfer the weight forward, and this amounts to some unpredictability on entering corners. Every car is distinctly different in how it handles based on the weight transfer and on the amount of grip from the tires. To double down on this, Polyphony Digital also included aerodynamics information generated from CFD to make this more realistic. The game even takes into effect wind direction that can affect handling, and setting front and rear car height will also affect handling. Every little change to your setup has an effect on your individual car in Gran Turismo 7. Car upgrades are pertinent for getting better lap times. It's not necessarily about being faster, but more importantly, having a more stable ride to help get that power to the ground. Wet racing in Gran Turismo 7, and just weather in general, is its greatest implementation. There's a new radar map option during the race on the MFD to watch for oncoming rain. Rain can exist on any part of the track, whereas it's dry on others. It can rain and be sunny as well. Puddles will accumulate on certain parts of the track, along with dry lines that need to be maintained for maximum grip. It adds such a new dynamic to not only the series but racing games in general. The game will not equip you with wet tires, as these need to be purchased separately, so you may be doing some driving on stock road tires or on slicks if you're not careful. For some reason, the game doesn't provide you with a weather report prior to racing. You just have to see if there's rain coming down before you start the race. No race is the same due to the cloud formations, the time transitions, and the weather. Even the specified star constellations look beautiful, and the best way to experience this is going down the back straight at Mount Panorama at night. The DualSense is just what the doctor ordered for those looking for an improvement to the controller experience. The adaptive triggers on the DualSense, much like other racing games, allow for resistance in certain braking and accelerating situations. Polyphony Digital has implemented what I feel is the proper way for brake pressure by offering the resistance up front rather than having free play down to a point. Accelerating is fairly straightforward, but when the car loses traction, you will fight this with the resistance that's presented to the R2 button. To make the experience deeper, every time the car transmission shifts up or down, the controller offers a hard vibration, and that's really intuitive. You will feel subtle vibrations while the tires are on the ground providing force. Even hitting the bumps in Tokyo are felt on the controller. It's a deeper experience that brings racing to the modern age. The AI, while improved with some workarounds, still remains a Gran Turismo legacy issue. It's cool to see the AI actually lose traction around corners or even spin out. Plus you will see slipstreams and overtakes from the AI. The development team has also given a face to the names, as you can view a quick excerpt from the top competitors in each race to give you a background on them. Most of these are high-ranking GT players in real life. However, being able to run into cars with no repercussions to save a corner is still a thing. The AI will also not recognize that you're there to the point that they will run straight into you from behind. With the eventual implementation of Sony's new AI on the horizon, this will eventually be alleviated. Gran Turismo 7 is offering 400 cars at launch, which is a good total number of cars on paper. This doesn't tell the complete story, however. The series has always been known to include multiple variations of one type of car, and this continues here. Most of these cars seem to have been ported over from GT Sport, with some even missing, such as the Dodge Challenger. What does return is the used car market, where classic cars pre-2000 will show up dynamically with pricing that mimics today's actual market. It is a bit disappointing that there aren't more new cars in here, such as the new Corvette, but the new Nissan Z and the Ferrari F8 Tributo are present. On the PlayStation 5, Gran Turismo 7 is the best looking version to date. Car models, both exterior and interior, are the most detailed and beautiful cars seen in a game as of now. The reflections are blinding when the sun hits certain angles, and it stands out more when there's chrome involved. Environments are also full of more assets with the inclusion of 3D grass. The crowds look more detailed and full of life. There's also been some confusion as to the implementation of ray tracing, and even the game wasn't completely clear on it. Ray tracing only exists in scapes, which is the photo mode that comes back, replays, and cutscenes. Otherwise, you are locked in at 4K and 60 frames per second for the racing portion, which I don't see any complaints there. The audio in the latest version also seems to have made the greatest strides from the past. Cars, no matter the engine, sound aggressive and more realistic. The V8s, while improved, still aren't quite on par with the quality of the other cars. Tempest 3D audio tech is used for positional audio that includes sound reflections off of barriers, car positioning, and even hearing the train alongside the track in Tokyo. This really helps to identify if someone's coming up behind you and on which side they're attempting to pass. The multiplayer aspect carries over everything from GT Sport and adds some. Many rooms for each location allow for a laid-back atmosphere. Players can also do split-screen racing and can host lobbies and jump in and out of races. Daily races return, and the fact that after 5 years, the previous game remains to have a plethora of users for its sports races. In summary, Gran Turismo 7 is the quintessential Gran Turismo. It's the culmination of the best of what the series has achieved over the 25 years of the series' life. It's also worth noting that this is the fastest loading Gran Turismo when played on the PS5 thanks to the SSD, as navigating screens is extremely quick. The game is beautiful, detailed, and fresh, and it's powered by a very detailed handling model that we have yet to see in any other racing game. The addition of the cafe may split people, but in my opinion, it's a great way to bring in new players and freshen up the experience. The weather system and the fact that no one race will look the same based on the lighting and cloud formations should help alleviate any thoughts of redundancy. I believe Gran Turismo 7 is Kazunori Yamauchi's vision culminated, and it can do the same things for today's youth as it did 25 years ago. Head over to hardcoregamer.com for the full written review.